And I never saw anybody tell a story that way. Pretty much every one of the films, you could study the shots. And then I went back, when I began to learn more about filmmaking, I went back and I kept saying, why is that one so powerful? It's really a person with a very strong storytelling ability, talent, genius, who could create a solid rock image that has conviction. That is the image. What's in that frame stays in that frame. What isn't in the frame is out. And that's it. You have to compose within that frame. I didn't know he was a still photographer before. And I said, of course, the still photography, once you get that image. But then it moves. Still cameras don't move, you know? And so it had this extraordinary authority saying, look, I'm gonna tell you the story this way, and you're gonna see it this way.
For as long as I can remember, movies are something I sort of obsessed over. So you could say that movies are sort of a lifelong passion of mine. I mean, all you really got to do is look behind me to tell how much I love movies. Horror movies specifically are the thing that I really zeroed in on. And loving movies are actually the reason I picked up a camera in the first place, because when I was a kid, I wanted to learn how to make movies. And then when I was a teenager, I got really obsessed with skateboarding, so I started to want to make skate videos. Movies, videos, it's all the same because they're visual arts. And that's the same reason that I fell in love with photography. If we compare some of the greatest photographers' work to the movies we all grew up on, it's actually easy to see that they're both kind of speaking the same language. Learning how to watch movies like this can take time, in the same way that learning what makes a good photograph can take time. But it can teach you fundamentals of photography if you know how to watch them. I might be kind of making it seem like more of a skill than it actually is, because it is just watching movies. But if you're interested in photography, you should be watching more movies. It's a great passive way to kind of subconsciously teach yourself framing, lighting, composition, layering, and storytelling. Movies kind of teach your brain how beautiful, organized chaos can be. And when you know how to organize the chaos, that's when you can make beautiful imagery. Film's an art form all on its own, but the same thing that'll make a great shot in a movie will oftentimes be a great photo. Some of the best movies in the world have amazing cinematography, and part of the reason they're considered the best is because how visually striking they are. And when we actively watch movies as a photographer, you really can start to appreciate that art that most other people aren't even noticing. It opens up a whole new world of appreciating film, while at the same time sort of passively teaching you what a good frame looks like. Because all of the best cinematographers in the world are doing the same thing the best photographers in the world are doing. They are telling a story in a frame. While film has the advantage of being able to move to tell that story, photography can freeze that story in a way that film just can't, without being awkward anyway. So when we're watching a scene play out in a film, you can actually be watching it the same way you're looking around your environment when you're out on a photo walk or wherever you happen to be. It's kind of the same skill, and when you can start to answer the question of why the cinematographer placed the camera where they did, that's when you start to get better at photography. Cinematography and photography are kind of the same skill, while simultaneously being totally opposite skills. The rules are different, but the art of framing, lighting, color grading, and layering are all transferable. If we use these movies that these cinematographers are creating as inspiration, we can kind of get inspired in the same way that a photo book or a photographer's website or any other way to consume photos will kind of give you. The films made by masters of their craft can engage you in the art form in ways that you never have before. And you'll know this if you've watched any movie by Quentin Tarantino, Stanley Kubrick, Dario Argento, Wes Anderson, Lucio Fulci, Francis Ford Coppola, true auteur directors that are seriously real masters of their craft. They should be studied the same way that Ernst Haas, Joel Meyerowitz, Alex Webb, William Eccleston, Martin Parr, Stephen Shore, or Diane Arbus should be if you want to become a better photographer, in my opinion. It may seem unrelated on the surface, but when you're watching movies, you are seeing framing that's been agonized over by hundreds of people. And that agonizing gives you the best possible shot with the best possible conditions. So studying these frames sharpens your eye for composition no matter where you're shooting, and it can expand your pool of inspiration. I've always found that consuming the art of people outside of the niche that I'm interested in is the best way to get inspiration. And that can lead to less derivative work, which in the end is what we're all kind of trying to achieve as photographers and storytellers. If what we all value as photographers is the ability to tell a story within a frame that recontextualizes the world around us and offers a new perspective, then we should be immersing ourselves in the work of the greatest visual storytellers in human history. It exposes us to masterful composition, lighting, and framing, but it also teaches us how emotion and narrative can unfold in a single image. Cinema offers a depth of visual storytelling that can transform the way we see as photographers. And the more of them we watch, the better you get at watching them. And the better you get at watching them, the better your photos are going to be, because of how much you learn when you're actively watching a movie, paying attention to lighting, composition, framing, why the cinematographer is doing the things that they're doing, why the gaffers lit the scene the way they did. All of the things that makes a great photograph are all in play in a film. If you pay attention to what is making the frame in front of you so good, you will get passively better at doing that in real life while just walking around. So if you love photography, but you're not as into film as I am, I would just say start with some of the most visually striking films out there. And I'm not talking about like Avengers. That's not the striking visuals I'm talking about. I'm talking about movies like Suspiria, Pulp Fiction, Blade Runner, The Green Knight, The Shining, Beyond the Black Rainbow, Eraserhead, and other visually rich, artsy films like those. There's a whole world of indie art house films out there that you've never heard of, and they will visually blow your mind. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Darling also springs to mind when I say that. I know those are both black and white. I'm not only talking about black and white films, but those are the two that really strike me as somebody taking the history of film and doing their own thing with it. But you just have to be willing to look for movies like that. Diving into the visual world of cinema can spark new ideas. It can challenge your perspective and make you see photography in a new way. The compositions, lighting, and framing in film can go beyond what we encounter in everyday life, but it can teach you how the subtle details can make or break a shot. So I would challenge you to explore films that you maybe wouldn't otherwise and let them push you creatively. And don't be afraid to let their stories and images affect yours. At its core, photography is about seeing the world differently, capturing moments that can convey meaning, emotion, and narrative. By embracing the influence of cinema, you can push your work beyond the familiar, expand your creative boundaries, and find new ways to tell your own stories. Film is a literal endless source of inspiration, but the catch is you gotta be watching them. Watch more movies, please. Also, you know what? Go to more theaters, because I don't want them all to close. So if you want to hear me talk more about individual movies and review them and stuff like that, I do actually have a film podcast. I will link that down below. We get like no views, so it would be awesome to get some support over there. But otherwise, if you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time. Mike the Finder out. See ya.